The afternoon started sweetly when my granddaughter Emily ran straight into my arms, her little drawing clutched tight. I kissed her hair and held her close, savoring the warmth. For a moment, it almost felt like the family I once dreamed of. Then my daughter, Olivia, walked in. She didn't sit beside me, didn't even smile. She dropped into the dining chair like she was here on business. Her eyes were sharp, colder than I remembered. And then she said it, without warning, like a blade drawn across the room. "Mom, if you won't sell this house to cover my debts, then you need to move out of here." My breath caught. Did I hear that right? My house? Not mine? From my own child? I tried to steady my voice, to stay calm, though my chest was tightening. How long had I been blind? How did the little girl I once sang to sleep turn into this stranger? My name is Maggie Patterson. I'm 62 years old, living alone in Ohio. And that was the moment I realized the love I thought was saving my daughter had only been feeding her entitlement. Subscribe if you like this kind of story. The phone buzzed on the small wooden table by the window. When I saw Olivia's name flashing on the screen, I couldn't help but smile. My daughter didn't call often without a reason, but hearing her voice still warmed my heart. "Hi, Mom," Olivia said. Her tone was quick, almost clipped. "Hi, sweetheart." "How's my little Emily today?" I asked, the thought of my granddaughter always bringing a light to my chest. "She's fine. She's coloring in her room right now, so short." Once upon a time, Olivia would go on and on about Emily, what she ate for breakfast, the silly things she said, the way she laughed. Now, just a flat answer. I told myself she was busy. You know, she always sends me those little drawings. I tried to soften the silence. I keep every single one. My fridge looks like a gallery. A small laugh came from Olivia, but it was hollow. "Yeah, well, she loves you, Mom. You've always been her favorite." It should have warmed me. But it sounded rehearsed, as if she knew what I wanted to hear and offered it without feeling. Then her voice dropped heavier now. "Mom, we need to talk. It's serious." My stomach tightened. Nothing good ever followed those words. Serious? What's wrong? Is Emily okay? She's fine. This isn't about her. It's about us. About the future. She said it too quickly, as if to cut off my worry. If not Emily, then what? What future was she talking about? "You're scaring me, Olivia." "Just tell me what's going on." Silence stretched. I heard her sigh, long and burdened. And then her words. "The bills, the debt. It's piling up. I can't do this alone anymore." I closed my eyes. How many times had I heard that song? The unpaid utilities, the maxed out cards, the broken down car after the divorce. Every time I'd stepped in, telling myself it would be the last, but it never was. "Olivia, sweetheart, you know I've helped when I could," I said softly. "But you sound different. What are you really asking me?" Her tone sharpened, the sweetness gone. "I'll explain when I come over tomorrow. Just be ready to listen, Mom. Don't jump to conclusions. This is important." It didn't sound like a daughter asking her mother for help. It sounded like a warning. Still, I forced myself to answer. "Of course, honey. I'll always listen." "You know that good. I'll see you tomorrow." The line went dead. I sat alone in the silence, clutching the phone. She had said it was important, but the way she spoke made me feel less like a mother being asked, and more like a woman about to be told what to do. I looked around this old house, the only place left where my husband's memory still lived. It had never felt so fragile, and inside me, a quiet fear whispered, tomorrow, my daughter wouldn't just bring a conversation, she would bring a storm. The next afternoon, Olivia arrived with Emily tugging at her side. My granddaughter ran straight into my arms, pressing her little drawing into my hand. I kissed the top of her head, breathing her in. For a moment, it almost felt like old times. But when Olivia followed her inside, the air shifted. She didn't sit beside me, not even across from me. She planted herself at the dining table like she was about to deliver a presentation. "Mom," she began, folding her arms, "we need to be realistic." "I can't keep drowning like this," I nodded slowly. "I know it's been hard, Olivia." "But what exactly are you saying?" Her eyes darted to the walls, to the framed photos of her as a little girl, to the worn curtains I'd sewn myself 30 years ago. Then she looked back at me. I need you to sell this house. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. Excuse me? If you sell this place, you'll have enough to pay off my debt and still live comfortably, she explained as though it were the most logical thing in the world. It's not like you need a 4-bedroom house anymore. You live here alone. Emily and I, we're the future. We need stability. Her words landed like stones in my chest. Sell the house. The house my husband and I bought when she was still in diapers. The house where every creak of the floorboard carries his memory. I tried to keep my voice steady. Olivia, this is my only home. It's not just walls and a roof. It's all I have left of your father. I can't just... You can, she cut me off. Her tone sharpened, impatient. You choose not to. Don't you care about Emily? Don't you want her to have a safe future? That's what this is about, Mom, not you. Her words twisted inside me. I'd spent years sacrificing for her, for Emily, and now she was using that little girl, the only innocent in all this, as a weapon. I looked at Emily, sitting on the rug, humming softly to herself, coloring with crayons. Did she know her mother was asking me to trade away the only thing her grandfather left behind? Olivia, I have given and given, I whispered. My pension barely stretches as it is. This house is not just a memory, it's my security. Without it, I'd have nothing. She leaned forward, eyes flashing. You're exaggerating. You have your pension. You could downsize and move into an apartment. People your age do it all the time. Why cling to this old place when it could actually save your family? Her family. Not mine. The thought struck me like a slap. Since when did she stop seeing us as the same family? I stared at her. This was not the little girl who used to crawl into my bed after thunderstorms. This was a woman who spoke to me like a problem to be solved, a resource to be tapped. Olivia, I said, my throat tight, I can't just erase my life so you can fix your mistakes. That's not what love means. She shook her head, frustrated. No, Mom. What you're doing isn't love. It's selfish. After everything I've been through, after the divorce, the bills, the stress, you can't even do this one thing for me? Her words pierced me deeper than any knife. Selfish. She was calling me selfish after decades of sacrifice. I thought of the nights I stayed late at the library to pay for her school clothes, the vacations I never took because I was saving for her tuition, the times I swallowed my pride and bailed her out of financial messes she promised she'd never repeat. And now, all of it dismissed in a single word. Selfish. I gripped the edge of the table, grounding myself. Inside, something shifted, a slow cracking of an illusion I'd held onto for too long, that if I just kept giving, one day she would see, one day she would be grateful. But sitting there, watching her harden her jaw, I realized gratitude had long left her. Maybe it never really lived there at all. Her words, "Sell the house, Mom," still echoed in the air, sharp and unreal. I looked past her to the old photograph on the wall, and suddenly I wasn't here anymore. I was 24 again, standing outside this very house for the first time with my husband. The paint was peeling, the porch sagged, the roof leaked, but to us, it was a castle. We had nothing but dreams and calloused hands. I worked long nights as a nurse, dragging myself home just in time to share coffee with him before he left for his own shift. We ate canned beans and stale bread, laughing anyway, because every dollar we saved brought us closer to this place. I can still feel the sting of the rain dripping through the ceiling that first winter, the buckets lined up to catch the leaks, the two of us huddled under a blanket promising that one day we'd fix it. And we did. Not all at once, but piece by piece, year after year, until it became ours. Not just a house, a home. But then, he was gone. One day he kissed me goodbye and he never came back. The cancer moved too fast. I buried him in spring, and by summer I was back at the hospital taking double shifts. The house felt impossibly big, the silence heavier than any night shift I had ever worked. And yet, I couldn't let it swallow me. I had Olivia. She was 5 then, with wide eyes and hair always tangled from running around. I told myself she would never feel the emptiness that I did. So I poured everything into her, every paycheck, every ounce of strength left in me. I went to work exhausted, came home to a sink full of dishes, and somehow still found the will to sit by her bed and read until she fell asleep. Some nights, I'd watch her chest rise and fall and whisper to myself, "This is why. This is why you keep going. This house became my anchor. It was where my husband's laughter still lingered in the woods, where my daughter's childhood filled the rooms with drawings, toys, and the smell of birthday cakes I barely had time to bake. And now she was sitting in front of me, grown, hardened, telling me to sell it, as if all those years of sweat, tears, and love were nothing but numbers on a piece of paper. Inside, something cracked. I wanted to ask her, "Do you even remember? Do you remember what it cost me to keep this roof over your head?" But the look in her eyes told me the answer. She didn't remember, or maybe she chose not to. The memories faded, but the ache of them lingered like a bruise beneath the skin. I blinked, and the years slipped away, dragging me back into this room, this moment, my daughter standing before me, no longer the child who once called this our forever home. "You're selfish, Mom." The word hit me like a slap. After everything, she called me that. "Selfish?" I said quietly. "I broke myself in half to raise you." "You don't get to call that selfish." She crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Dad would have done it. He wouldn't be clinging to some pile of bricks while his daughter's drowning. He would have sold this place without a second thought." My chest tightened, dragging his name into this, twisting it. "Don't you dare," I snapped. "Your father fought for this house. He knew what it meant." Olivia laughed, sharp and bitter. "What it means?" "Mom, it means nothing. It's just wood and drywall. You're turning it into a shrine. Meanwhile, I'm out here struggling to keep food on the table." Shrine. She said it like it was an insult. My hands gripped the table to steady myself. "This house is survival," I told her. "It's all I have left." "No," she shot back, her voice rising. "It's all you care about. You care more about your damn memories than your own daughter and granddaughter." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Emily sat on the rug, humming, oblivious. Used as a bargaining chip in her mother's war, I forced my voice steady. "I cared for you every day of your life. I kept this roof over your head, kept food on the table even when it nearly broke me. And now you call me selfish?" Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood. She began pacing, her hands clenched. "When did you stop caring, huh? When did your comfort start mattering more than your family? You could fix everything, Mom, but instead, you sit here playing the victim." Victim. My own daughter is calling me pathetic, blind to everything I gave. My throat burned, but I held her gaze. "This isn't about me choosing comfort," I said. "It's about you refusing to stand on your own 2 feet." Her eyes flared. She stepped closer, voice shaking with fury. "You're pathetic. A lonely old woman who'd rather cling to a house than save her family?" The words hung there, toxic, filling every corner of the room. And in that moment I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't love talking. The air was thick enough to choke on. Olivia's words still hung sharp in the room, but I had reached my limit. My voice rose, louder than hers, for the first time all night. "No, Olivia. I will not sell this house. I don't care how many times you ask, how many names you call me. This home stays with me." Her eyes widened for a beat. She wasn't used to hearing me stand firm. For years, I had bent, compromised, given in. Not this time. Her jaw tightened. "You'd really choose this pile of wood over me? Over your own daughter?" I leaned forward, every muscle trembling, but my voice was iron. "I am choosing myself. For once in my life, I am choosing me." The words rang out, slicing the air. Even Emily paused, looking up from her crayons. And then, without warning, Olivia moved. Her chair screeched backward, and in 2 strides, she was at me. No raised voice, no warning, just a sudden, violent shove, both hands slamming into my chest. The world tilted. My body pitched backward through the doorway, the evening air rushing cold against my skin. My hip smashed against the step, my knee buckled, and pain shot like lightning through my bones as I crumpled onto the wood. "Mommy, stop!" Emily's scream tore through the night, high and raw, a sound no child should ever have to make. The step dug into my back, sharp and unforgiving. Pain shot down my hip, and my knee throbbed where it had slammed the wood. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, my chest tight from the shove. Emily's cry split the air again. "Mommy, stop!" "Don't hurt Grandma." Her little sneakers slapped against the floor as she ran toward me, but she froze halfway, torn between me and her mother. Her tiny fist gripped a crayon so tight it snapped in 2. I reached out a trembling hand. "It's okay, baby. I whispered, though my voice shook. Grandma's okay. But I wasn't, not inside. Above me, Olivia stood rigid, her chest heaving, her face flushed with fury. I looked up at her and searched for the daughter I once knew, the girl who used to curl up beside me during thunderstorms, who used to beg me not to leave for night shifts at the hospital. She wasn't there. What I saw now was a stranger who had just shoved me to the ground like I was nothing. Emily's sobs pierced through me, but deeper still was the hollow in my chest, because in that instant I realized the truth I had been too afraid to face. My love hadn't protected Olivia. It had enabled her. Every time I said yes, every time I bailed her out, every time I gave up a piece of myself to keep her safe, I was teaching her something else. I was teaching her that she could take and take and take, and I would never stop her. The ache in my knee was nothing compared to that realization. My daughter's hands had shoved me, yes, but my own choices had built the ground she stood on. The entitlement, the anger, the belief that I owed her everything. I pulled myself up slowly, my hands scraping against the rough wood. Emily darted forward, her arms wrapping around my neck, her little body shaking. I held her close, though pain flared in every joint. My eyes stayed on Olivia, but it felt like I was looking at a stranger across a great divide. And there, with Emily trembling in my arms, I knew, if I kept living like this, if I kept giving until there was nothing left, one day there would be nothing of me for Emily to hold on to. After she stormed out, the house fell silent. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the faint sound of crickets outside filled the emptiness she left behind. I sat down slowly, my body heavy, but my heart heavier. And as I traced the lines of the wooden table with my fingers, the memories came rushing back again. When I was young, before the house, before Olivia, I dreamed of seeing the world. I wanted to travel, to take photographs of mountains and oceans, to study more, to maybe even write a book one day. I used to keep a little notebook full of sketches and plans, places I'd circle on a map and say, one day. But then life became survival. Bills, diapers, the grave reality of being widowed too soon. My dreams slowly turned into grocery lists, medical shifts, and tuition payments. And that notebook, filled with the one days, was shoved into a drawer and forgotten. I told myself it was worth it. Every sacrifice, every lost piece of myself, it was all so Olivia could have more than I did. So she could feel safe, secure, and loved. And for a while, I thought she did. I can still see her at 7 years old, running into the kitchen with a crayon drawing clutched in her little hands. The picture was shaky, lopsided, but clear enough. A house. Our house. With the three of us standing outside. Me, her, and the father she barely remembered. Above it, she'd written in crooked letters, "Forever home." I taped it on the fridge. Every time I stumbled through another long shift, every time I wondered if I could keep going, that drawing was my answer. And now, the same girl who once called this place forever had looked me in the eye and told me to sell it. When did she change? Was it in her teenage years, when she started slamming doors and calling me old-fashioned? Was it after the divorce, when bitterness took root and she learned how easy it was to lean on me for rescue? Or had she been drifting away much earlier, while I was too busy working to notice? I rubbed my temples, fighting the ache rising behind my eyes. Maybe I had given too much. Or maybe I had given in the wrong way. For so long, I believed love meant saying yes, no matter the cost. But sitting here, staring at the ghost of that faded drawing still tucked in the corner of my fridge door, I wondered if real love sometimes meant saying no. Maybe the greatest gift I could give her now wasn't the house, wasn't money, wasn't another bailout. Maybe the greatest gift was the chance to stand on her own, even if she hated me for it. Next morning, the light slipped through the curtains, painting the room gold. My hip ached, my knee stiff, but I pushed myself upright anyway. Pain was no longer my enemy. Fear was. I set a cup of tea on the table, opened my laptop, and dialed the number I'd avoided for too long. The bank. My hand shook only once before the line clicked alive. "Thank you for calling First National Bank. This is Daniel speaking. How can I help you today?" I took a breath, steadying myself. "Yes, Daniel. My name is Margaret Price. I need to discuss my accounts. Specifically, I need to make sure my daughter no longer has access to any of my funds." A pause. The polite kind, professional but surprised. "Of course, Mrs. Price. Can you verify your account number and the last 4 digits of your Social Security number?" I read them off, clear and firm. He typed, the faint sound of keys rattling on the other end. Yes, I see your file. What exactly would you like us to restrict? I tightened my grip on the phone. For years, my daughter Olivia has been an authorized user on my credit line. I need her removed immediately. I also need to stop any automatic transfers I've been making toward her accounts. There was another pause, this one longer. Mrs. Price, just to confirm, you want her taken off as an authorized user and you want to cancel the transfers? Yes, I said. Mark them as closed from my side. No more payments, no more liability. If she defaults, it is on her, not me. My voice surprised even me, flat, steady, no tremor of doubt. Understood, Daniel replied. We'll process the removal today. I'll also flag your profile for fraud alerts, just in case. Do you want me to issue new cards and routing numbers to prevent any unauthorized access? That caught me off guard. Fraud alerts. New cards. For a moment, shame burned through me. How had I let it come to this? But then I nodded to myself. Yes, issue them. Send everything to my address, only Daniel's tone softened. You're making a wise choice, Mrs. Price. Many parents don't realize how much liability they carry until it's too late. I closed my eyes, the weight of his words sinking in. Until it's too late. I had lived in too late for years, but not anymore. Thank you, I whispered. This time it won't be me paying the price. 2 days later, I sat across from Patricia Morgan, my lawyer of 20 years. Her office smelled faintly of old books and lemon polish, the shelves lined with binders and certificates. Patricia had helped us close on this house decades ago. Now I needed her for something much harder. She slid her glasses up the bridge of her nose. All right, Maggie. Tell me what's going on. I clasped my hands in my lap, steady. I need to update my will, Patricia. Effective immediately. My daughter Olivia is not to inherit my house, or anything else of mine. Her brows rose slightly. Not at all? Not a dime. My voice didn't waver, but I want the house left to my granddaughter, Emily. With conditions, Patricia leaned forward. Go on. I want the deed to pass directly into a trust, managed by a third-party guardian until Emily is of age. I don't want Olivia controlling it, living in it, or leveraging it in any way. I want her locked out, legally. Patricia's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. That's possible. We'd establish what's called a living trust. You'll designate a trustee, not Olivia, who will oversee the property until Emily turns 21. Do you have someone in mind as trustee? I thought for a moment. Yes. My brother, James. He's steady and Emily adores him. He'll protect her. Patricia made a note. All right. Now, you mentioned Olivia. If she contests this, she could file a challenge in probate court. Are you prepared for that? I straightened my back. Let her try. I want the paperwork airtight. Ironclad. I don't want her touching 1 cent of what I leave behind. Patricia's eyes softened. I understand. In addition to the trust, we'll draft what's called a no contest clause. If Olivia disputes the will in court and loses, she forfeits any claim to the estate, even personal belongings. It discourages challenges. Relief washed over me, sharp and heavy all at once. Do it. Please, I need to know Emily will be safe even if I'm not here. Patricia reached across the desk, touching my hand lightly. Maggie, this is a hard step, but it's the right one. You're protecting your granddaughter and yourself. I squeezed her hand back, grateful. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally building something not to be taken away, but to endure. That evening, I walked through the house with a different pair of eyes. The paint was peeling near the windows, and the front steps sagged from years of neglect. All the money I'd poured into Olivia's life had left my own home to rot, not anymore. I called a local contractor the next morning. Yes, I'd like an estimate for repairs. The front porch, the siding, and the kitchen counters. Yes, I want it in writing. And yes, I'll be paying myself. The words tasted good. Strange, but good. For the first time in years, the money I earned, the money I saved, would be spent where it belonged, on my home, on me. As I hung up, the silence of the house no longer felt like loneliness. It felt like peace. The weeks that followed were quiet. Too quiet for Olivia. I knew what she was thinking, what she was always thinking. Mom will cave, she always does. When the contractors came to repaint the porch and fix the siding, Olivia stopped by one afternoon, her arms folded, leaning against the fence. "So," she said with a smirk, "you're really putting money into this old place?" I looked up from where I was speaking with the foreman. "Yes, it's my home. It deserves care." She laughed, shaking her head. "You're just trying to make a point." "You'll get tired of it. You always do. And when you do, I'll be here." The arrogance in her tone stung, but I didn't rise to it. I simply wiped the paint dust from my hands and said, "Maybe this time is different, Olivia." Her smile faltered for just a moment. "Please. You've said that before." Inside, my chest tightened. She wasn't wrong. I had said it before. Empty threats, hollow ultimatums. Every time I folded. But as I looked at the fresh paint drying on the porch, the first improvement for me in decades, I knew this wasn't a performance. This was a beginning. She mistook my silence for weakness. "Don't worry, Mom. You'll come around." "You always do." She waved a careless hand and walked back to her car, the click of her heels sharp against the pavement. I stood there watching her leave, the contractor waiting politely beside me for instructions. For a long moment, all I could hear was her voice echoing in my head. "You always do, but not this time." 3 weeks later, the calls started. First a few, then dozens a day. I didn't answer. Then came the pounding on my front door. "Mom! Open this door!" Olivia's voice cracked through the wood, sharp and desperate. I stayed seated at the kitchen table, my tea cooling beside me. The pounding grew louder. "You think you can just cut me off? You think you can walk away? You're abandoning your own daughter." I closed my eyes. For years that word, abandoning, would have torn me open. But now it rang hollow. The knocking stopped, then came her voice, softer, trembling. "Mom, please. I'm drowning. The bills, the collectors. I can't do this. Emily needs stability. If you don't help us, we'll lose everything." My heart clenched at Emily's name, but I held my ground. Through the door, I said, "You are Emily's stability, Olivia. Not me. That's your job." There was silence, then a low, furious laugh. "You know what? If you don't help me, you'll never see her again. Do you hear me? Never. You'll never see Emily." The words struck like a blade. For a moment, my breath caught. But then, clarity. My own daughter is weaponizing my granddaughter against me. I stood, walked to the door, and pressed my palm flat against the wood, steadying myself. My voice was calm, colder than I thought I was capable of. "You're threatening me with the only person I love more than myself. That tells me everything I need to know." On the other side, I heard her breathing fast, almost frantic. Then came the thud of her fist against the door. "You're pathetic. A selfish old woman hiding behind her memories. You think that house will love you back? You think it'll keep you company when you're rotting alone?" Her words were fire, meant to burn me. But inside, a strange calm spread instead. Because finally, I understood. This wasn't about family, it was about control. Her fist slammed once more against the door, then silence. Just her ragged breathing on the other side. I opened the door, not wide, just enough to meet her eyes. She looked wild, desperate, like an animal cornered. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her as my child. I spoke first. My voice was steady, low, every word measured. "Olivia, listen to me. Love without respect is not love. It's slavery. And I will not be your slave anymore." She blinked, stunned by the words. I pressed on. "You're living like this because I allowed it. I kept saying yes, kept bailing you out, kept bleeding myself dry until you believed it was your right. That ends today. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I finally started loving myself." Her lips parted, a tremor in her jaw. For a moment, I saw the child she used to be, the one who once drew our forever home in crayon. But the years of entitlement weighed heavily. Tears brimmed, but pride held them back. You'd choose a house over me?" she whispered. I shook my head gently. "No, Olivia. I am choosing me, for once in my life. And until you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, I cannot hold you up anymore." Her tears broke then, streaking her face as she turned away, half sobbing, half cursing. She stumbled down the steps, her voice trailing into the night. I closed the door, this time not out of fear, but out of finality. Inside, I leaned against the wood, my breath heavy but my heart strangely light, because I knew the truth now. This wasn't defeat, this was a victory. For her, the lesson was brutal. That love is not entitlement, and mothers are not endless wells to drink dry. For me, the lesson was just as sharp, that saying no could be the most loving thing I'd ever done. And for Emily, one day, when she was old enough, she would understand why her grandmother had to be strong, that sometimes the greatest gift you give your children is not rescue, but boundaries. I whispered into the quiet house, a vow more than a thought. This ends here. The cycle stops with me. Her fist slammed once more against the door, then silence, just her ragged breathing on the other side. I opened the door, not wide, just enough to meet her eyes. She looked wild, desperate, like an animal cornered. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her as my child. I spoke first. My voice was steady, low, every word measured. "Olivia, listen to me. Love without respect is not love. It's slavery, and I will not be your slave anymore." She blinked, stunned by the words. I pressed on. "You're living like this because I allowed it." I kept saying yes, kept bailing you out, kept bleeding myself dry until you believed it was your right. That ends today. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I finally started loving myself. Her lips parted, a tremor in her jaw. For a moment, I saw the child she used to be, the one who once drew our forever home in crayon. But the years of entitlement weighed heavily. Tears brimmed, but pride held them back. You'd choose a house over me?" she whispered. I shook my head gently. "No, Olivia. I am choosing me, for once in my life. And until you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, I cannot hold you up anymore." Her tears broke then, streaking her face as she turned away, half sobbing, half cursing. She stumbled down the steps, her voice trailing into the night. I closed the door. This time, not out of fear, but out of finality. Inside, I leaned against the wood, my breath heavy, but my heart strangely light, because I knew the truth now. This wasn't defeat. This was a victory. For her, the lesson was brutal. That love is not entitlement, and mothers are not endless wells to drink dry. For me, the lesson was just as sharp, that saying no could be the most loving thing I'd ever done. And for Emily, one day, when she was old enough, she would understand why her grandmother had to be strong. That sometimes the greatest gift you give your children is not rescue, but boundaries. I whispered into the quiet house, a vow more than a thought. This ends here. The cycle stops with me. The next day, I sat in the kitchen. The smell of fresh paint drifted through. For weeks, the house had been a construction site, workers hammering, sanding, replacing the parts I'd neglected for too long. Every day, the place felt less like a burden and more like what it was always meant to be, my sanctuary. When the contractor finished, I stood on the front porch, running my hand along the smooth new railing. For the first time in years, the wood didn't splinter under my touch. It held firm. So did I. A month earlier, I would have poured every cent into Olivia's problems, patching her life while mine crumbled. Now, I was finally patching my own. Neighbors stopped by, curious about the noise and the repairs. Mrs. Henderson from across the street smiled, handing me a plate of cookies. "Looks like you're finally doing something for yourself, Maggie." I laughed, the sound surprising even me. "Yes," I said. "It was long overdue." That night I sat on the porch with a glass of iced tea, watching the sun sink low. The house was quiet, no shouting, no demands, no accusations. Just the hum of cicadas and the creak of the rocking chair beneath me. I thought of Emily. Someday, when she was old enough, she would know the truth. She would understand why Grandma had to draw the line, why sometimes love isn't about rescuing, but about refusing to let someone drag you down with them. I took a long sip of tea, the cool sweetness settling in my chest. For the first time in decades, the future didn't feel like a weight pressing down. It felt open. Mine. And as the stars blinked awake above me, I whispered into the night, almost like a promise. I'm done giving everything away. From now on, I live for me. Word got back to me soon enough. Olivia had gone bankrupt. The bills, the debt collectors, the final notices, they all caught up with her. She lost what little she had, and now she and Emily live in a cramped apartment with peeling walls and barely enough space for the two of them. I didn't feel proud hearing it. I didn't feel like I had won. There was no victory in watching my daughter's life collapse. What I felt was a quiet, aching sorrow. This was the harvest of seeds I had planted myself. Years of saying yes when I should have said no. Years of giving love without boundaries. Years of teaching her that she could take and take without ever standing on her own. But through the wreckage, one thing remained. Emily. Every week, a small envelope shows up in my mailbox. It looks out of place, tucked between electric bills and grocery coupons. On the front, in uneven handwriting, it always says, "For Grandma." A letter from my granddaughter. "Dear Grandma, we moved again. This place is smaller than before, but it's all we have now. Mommy works a lot, and sometimes she gets angry. I try to be good so she won't worry anymore. I wash dishes and keep my room clean. I think it helps a little. I miss you. I miss how your house felt safe, even when it was quiet. I remember the porch, the smell of your cookies, and how you always listened when I talked, even about small things. With you, I never felt like I was in the way. Mommy doesn't like when I talk about you, but I still draw pictures and send them. I hope that's okay. I want you to know I love you. And I want you to know that even though things are hard, I understand why you had to say no. Maybe one day Mommy will understand too. When I grow up, I'll visit you more. I'll come by myself if I have to, because I know your house will still be there, and you will still be there too. Love, Emily." I read those words over and over until the paper blurred with my tears. And yet, I smiled. Not because the pain was gone, but because I knew something I doubted for so long. I still mattered. I was still at home in her heart. That was enough. Someday Emily will grow older. She'll understand better. And she'll carry forward the lesson her mother has not yet learned, that real love isn't about taking until nothing is left. Real love is respect. It's care. It's knowing when to stop. And until that day comes, I'll keep every one of her letters. A box full of reminders that even through brokenness, love can survive. As I sit here tonight, Emily's latest letter resting in my hands, I think back to the words that changed everything. Love without respect is not love. It's slavery. And I will not be your slave anymore. Those weren't just words for Olivia. They were for me. A vow to myself that I would no longer shrink to fit someone else's demands. I have lived long enough to know that love is powerful, but blind love, endless sacrifice without boundaries, can destroy you. For years, I believed being a good mother meant giving until there was nothing left of me. Now I know the truth. Sometimes being a good mother means saying no. Sometimes the greatest gift you give your children is the chance to face their own choices. I think of the day Olivia shoved me onto those steps, and the day I finally said no. Those moments broke me, but they also rebuilt me. Because at 62 years old, I learned something I should have known all along. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to claim your freedom. This house, my life, my peace, they are mine again. And I will not apologize for protecting them. To anyone listening, anyone who has been told they are selfish for finally choosing themselves, you are not selfish. You are strong. You are allowed to draw lines. You are allowed to live for yourself. Because in the end, respect matters more than sacrifice. Freedom matters more than approval. And love, real love, begins with yourself. So, that's how the story ends. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Subscribe to the channel for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.